there's one thing about the human animal. If it has class, it has it. If it doesn't, you cannot give it to them.
This is The Law. Live audio wrestling with the latest news, info, and interviews from the world of pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, and the best of combat sports worldwide.
You broke the all-time record for the largest gathering of trailer park trash The Rock has ever seen.
I'm one of the biggest legends stars ever this God! And your kids took that too tight too, Billy!
And I heard the news the next day. And I slept like a baby last night.
From time to time, we'll be bringing you what we feel were the best of our recent shows.
Like me or not, I didn't come up here to be liked. I came up here to get paid. And whoever you put in front of me, I'm gonna drop you down.
Yeah. Dummy. Yeah. Dummy. Yeah.
I've had them down there on the dirt. I know what it's like to eat out of garbage cans, man. I know what it's like to sit there on the street and do nothing. I know what it's like to fight.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Tidwell and Bradie Whetham.
Oh, lottie dottie, we likes to party. This is The Law Live Audio Wrestling. I am your host, Chris Tidwell, and joining me each and every week, of course, I wouldn't be anything without him. I'm talking about my boy, little Bradie Whetham, and we are going to talk about all kinds of stuff, man. This has been so busy, so I'm going to run this down very quickly. Try to keep up with me, people. We're going to talk about one championship, one hell of a fight in that main event. We're going to talk about UFC 298. We're going to talk about The Rock joining the Bloodline. We're going to talk about who is the biggest stooge and why is it that they're coming out of TNA right now. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, and if that wasn't enough, this week's episode, my kick in the head is sitting down with none other than the TNA digital media champion himself. I'm talking about Crazy Steve, and we are going to have one hell of a conversation that if you watch this thing from beginning to end, there's a little bit of a cookie that takes place all throughout the thing. And if you can tell me what it is at the end of the whole thing, well, you'll probably get nothing from me. But anyways, I digress. Bradie, how the hell are you doing this week, brother?
Life's a work. I am doing fantastic, my friend. How has your week been?
Oh my gosh. If I had any more stuff crammed into my head after this past week, I'd have absolutely zero space left. I'd have to not wear these headphones and stuff would just be spilling out of my ears. That's how crazy and how busy of a week that it's been in the world of combat sports.
To our YouTube viewers, to our listeners on Symphony Radio and every other podcast provider that you can find out there, we have a jam-packed episode, as Chris is saying here. We have a very, 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 very stacked episode, so we'll try and get through this as quick as possible. But before we go to a commercial break, give us a quick little tidbit of what happened at the UFC last night.
Wow. Well, we were going to talk about the winners and losers of what happened last night. One thing for sure is that everybody lost their mind when the cameraman did an aerial shot of Mackenzie Dern fighting. Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's your highlight, or that's just what you've taken from how rotten human beings are with
that's
their
exactly how rotten human beings
perversity.
are. The fights themselves always delivered. We have a brand new champion. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what's going to go ahead with him, if there's going to be a rematch or not. Did Ian Gary solidify his spot even further? I don't know. We're going to talk
the most hated man on the internet, and
unbelievable. And he called out somebody too, so we're going to get into a little bit of that. So, listen. 298 is over. We're going to talk about the winners and losers of that, but more importantly, we've got 299 coming up, and we have the announcement has been made for your main event, ladies and gentlemen, to UFC 300. We've finally have a main event.
Finally, they did it. I'm so stoked to find out what it is, Chris. I haven't even looked into it yet. My friend, let me know when we get back from this commercial break of who it's going to be. I'm so stoked. It's got to be Connor or someone, right? Oh my God.
Well, don't go anywhere because we're going to find out when we come back.
TotalSportCards.com, Canada's #1 stop for WWE, AEW, UFC, NHL, NBA, and NFL hobby boxes. Total Sport Cards always delivers the most sought-after products with the best price points in the market that you can find. Keep your collection up to date with TotalSportCards.com. TotalSportCards.com, proud sponsor of Sunday night's main event.
Have you checked out East End Hamilton's newest live music venue? Vertigogo is keeping DIY music alive in the 905. January 28th, Terry Green. February 3rd, Decade. February 4th, Punk Rock Matinee with Gag Order. And in the evening, Night of the Holy Spirit Drag Show. February 15th, Cheap Chocolates. February 23rd, Golden Shitters. March 8th, Sons of Arrakis. Vertigogo brought to you by F*** You 2 Productions. Fanatickets.com.
And just like that, we're back. This is the Law Live Audio Wrestling. I am one half of your hosting duo. My name is Chris Tidwell, otherwise known as Notorious TID. And joining me, as always, Bradie Whetham, otherwise known as Little Bradie Whetham.
Well, if we were to listen to our comment section and our feedback, apparently I'm Disco Inferno's grandson.
Drunken grandson, because apparently they don't understand that the cataracts and the laser surgery and the fact that you have that Roy Orbison blindness disease, that's why you're wearing sunglasses in the house. It's not even nighttime, so he can't pull a Corey Hart to all you Canadian fans out there.
So just before we get into the rest of the show, let me just read some fan feedback quick that I have here. Okay.
All right.
Why the fuck is he wearing sunglasses inside? Too many beers at Applebee's. I don't go to Applebee's. And if I did, I wouldn't drink what was on tap.
Oof, yeah. Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
Well, that's why you would be wearing sunglasses, because you would go blind.
Then it started an argument. It sparked an argument with, we've been asking them that question every day. Ha, 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 ha. Show Disco's grandson some respect, you heckin' jamoke. And okay, I'm mad. Seriously, now show up on my block. So, you know, our comments and our listeners and our viewers are all delinquent.
Okay. That's wild. I don't know why people are starting fights over what you wear. But hey, such is the world of combat sports and sports entertainment, because crazy people out there get emotionally involved and emotionally invested. And, you know, I mean, listen. It's understandable. So, what do you want to talk about first, Bradie? Let's talk about a fight that took place on this past Friday night. I'm talking about One Fighting Championships. And if you haven't been watching one up to this point, then do yourself a favor and go back and start watching some of it, because we knew about this promotion for a long time now, right? But it seems like it's getting better and better. And here's the thing that I like. I don't know about you, Bradie. I don't know about the listeners out there, but here's the thing that I like that sets one aside from everybody else. Is the fact that it's a show with different stuff throughout. And what I mean by that is, like, you can have an MMA match. Then you have a kickboxing match. Then you have a jiu-jitsu match. Then you have a Muay Thai match. Then you have another MMA match. And they mix it up very well. And it's inside of a ring, a modified ring, if you will, because I was noticing that it's not a 3-rope like a wrestling ring, and it's not a 4-rope like a boxing ring. There's 5 sets of ropes on this one ring.
It's so when they're from falling out.
It's stopping people from falling out the bottom. It's a fantastic design because they don't have a cage, and you know, they're doing great stuff. The show was fantastic. And let me tell you about the main event that happened this past Friday night. That was a Muay Thai kickboxing rules with the number 3 guy, Felipe Lobo, taking on the champion, a 2-sport champion, a champion in kickboxing and the current Muay Thai champion for One Fighting Championship, Jonathan Haggerty. And this fight Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, if you want to watch this fight and you got a Prime or an Amazon membership, go back. It's free on Prime. And this is where you can watch a lot of the past events from one is going over to Prime. They seem to be just giving away their stuff for free, technically, on Prime if you've got a basic membership. So go back and watch this because you're right. Oh, what?
This fight to me turned into a who is going to be able to last longer, because Felipe Lobo comes out guns a-blazing, so much so that he ends up sitting the champ down in the first round.
Well, he came out guns a-blazing, and it was a Muay Thai fight, and he wasn't throwing elbows. He wasn't throwing kicks. He was literally just he was biting down on the mouth guard and just going to the body and head, body, head, body, head.
Yeah, yeah.
And it worked well at first.
It worked fantastically, and then Jonathan Haggerty starts getting a beat on him and starts to go to work. And then the second round ends. And then the third round starts. And it's just work from both of these guys. Listen, if you are in any way, shape, or form indifferent about your love for watching a good Muay Thai fight, let me tell you something. This fight right here will sway you the way that you should be and give you a whole new love for the sport. Because my goodness, one hell of a fight and a great way to start off the weekend, because we had fantastic fights throughout the weekend. We're talking about UFC 298, and that main card, as mad as I am right now, that main card was a very good card. Let's go.
Wait a second. Yeah. Wait a second. Before you roll through the card,
sure.
Why are you so upset?
Well, because I lost money, Bradie.
What did you lose?
I lost $5.
But what did you potentially, what was the payout going to be?
$2,000.
How many fights did you lose by?
One.
Did you pick? Wait a second. One. And that was picking the decisions and picking the ways to win?
Yep.
So the odds of you doing that were probably 70,000 to 1.
It was crazy. It was the 5 fights. It was $5, and it was going to win me $2,000 and small change. And it was taken away from me right out the gate, Bradie.
Don't tell me it was Hernandez.
Well, listen, I put my money, in part of that parlay, I put it on Roman Kopylov, and Kopylov came out there and didn't do what he was supposed to. I don't know if he got the memo or not, but Anthony Hernandez came out there and did exactly what he was supposed to do.
And beyond.
This is a guy who is climbing up the backside of the rankings very quickly. You're going to see a lot more of him, especially after taking out a guy in Kopylov that they thought was going to be one of the next big strikers. You would think that a Russian would have better wrestling.
I don't know if it was that. I think it was just the pressure from Hernandez, man. He did not let off. He didn't let off at all, whether it was in the clinch. Now, during the clinch at the end of the first round and at the beginning of the second, I was like, okay, Hernandez, you're going to get caught here. This is not going to work for you. This kid, he's too good. And when he held on to that first rear naked choke and blasted through it, and Hernandez had to go back into he was trying to get the back again, but he was in half mount or whatever reason, half guard. I was like, oh, that's it. You blew your wad. And then somehow he gets his back again. And
this time when he got his back, there was no chin at all. That first one, he was across the chin, and it was very much a pressure choke. And you can get those. You can get those very easily. But that second one, when he locked that thing in, it was just a matter of time. And you were looking at the clock, and there's a minute 20 left, and you're like, there's no way. There's no way he's making it through this one.
I'm surprised he tapped. Because of what he went through the first time, I thought he was just going to go to sleep. But wow, I hate to say it, and I don't want to rub it in. I apologize that you lost your money.
Yeah,
you can get your $2,000. Could you imagine what our opener would have looked like if you won that $2,000?
Yeah, it would have looked like somebody else sitting here. Because I'd have been off spending that $2,000.
I would have been doing the show with Truth Bomb Donnie the whole time. Which is fine for me, but I feel like we'd get a lot of dislikes because, well, speaking of which, Donnie went viral this week on a few different platforms, social media, and check out our shorts, saying the Attitude Era was overrated. So I would have loved to do a whole show with him and asked him about every single detail about that.
Well, if you think that one was something, wait till you see this week's Truth Bomb.
Oh, Jesus.
It's going to be fun. Now,
he goes to town, eh? Okay, so moving on. Hernandez fucked your parlay, and then we went over to Devshilly versus Cejudo.
Yeah, and this was a fight that went exactly the way that I had pictured it going. Dvalishvili is not a finisher, but he is a grinder. This is a guy who sticks so much pressure on you. And this is what we saw in that first fight, too, with Hernandez. Dvalishvili is same kind of thing, just pressure, nonstop. And Henry Cejudo, as much as he tried, if you notice that going into that third round, right, Henry Cejudo, his forearm on his left arm was jacked right up. He tried blocking a kick, it looked like, at some point, right, and ended up catching on the forearm, and that thing went to about 3 times the normal size. The fact that Dvalishvili was able to take Cejudo down at will, not up against the cage either, in the middle of the cage, was a real indication of where we are in this sport and how good Dvalishvili's pressure really is.
All I can see is that image of him picking up Cejudo and doing the Hamza, but not doing it towards Dana to say, give me a title shot. He did it towards Mark Zuckerberg and said, bring me on your training team.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Arn Anderson spine busted him and then looked directly at Zuckerberg. And this was after he put that choke on and was talking to Zuck. Merab came into his own last night. He's a superstar.
He absolutely did.
He's a superstar.
Absolutely did. And Mark Zuckerberg, you listen, he was all over 298 last night because he also came out, walked out with the champ, Alexander Volkanovski, on the 298 card as well. So he was all over the place. Some people were very happy about it. Some people were not very happy about it.
Well, before we get into that, I can't wait to lead into this because I'm going to make the producers make a short of this. But fuck the Zuck, because he always takes our stuff off of Facebook. So fuck the Zuck.
All right.
Don't invade my sport like fucking Taylor Swift, dude.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? Like, get out of here, brother. I don't care if you've trained for an afternoon in your office because you're bored with your billions of dollars. Go back to the courthouse and deal with what you got to deal with there. Stay out of MMA. So who else feels that way?
Well, it's no secret that the UFC has a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell.
Really?
And Bryce Mitchell is one hell of a character.
Seems like a polite young gentleman.
I'm sure that he is a very polite young gentleman, but his much like a Kevin Smith production company, his view is askew, if you know what I'm saying.
Good reference.
You like that one, huh?
Very good. View askew.
So of course, after the 298 card, Bryce Mitchell decided to put himself up a little video talking about Mark Zuckerberg. And we could play this now.
Yeah, let's go.
Or we can go through the rest of this. You want to see this now?
Yeah, we're on the topic. Let's go. We'll come back to you, Gary.
So listen to this.
So I see Mark Zuckerberg out there at the UFC events last night. He's got all these UFC fighters handshaking, high-fiving. Woo, hey, Zuckerberg, good to see you. I tell you what, Zuckerberg, this right here, this is where you belong, buddy.
Anybody else notice that just looks like an old MMA cage?
What is he doing?
Right there. You belong in that pen with those pigs because you're just like a pig. You shit where you eat, buddy. I know. You censor posts. You help rig this election. Buddy, you will not go unpunished. What? I promise you. Those bunkers you're building in Hawaii will not save you from the wrath of God. It will descend upon you quickly when it does.
Oh, no.
I'm not fooled. I'm never going to shake your hand. I'm never.
Okay, you may not be fooled, but you certainly sound like you're blown up, young man. He's just standing there talking, and he's blown up. Wow.
Early CTE, man. Early CTE, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's finish.
We're gonna be cool with you. I know what y'all did to this country. I know what y'all did to this country. Diesel used to be $2 a gallon, buddy. Y'all take our freedoms every day. Every day you step on us. You censor our posts. You rig elections. All of y'all are a bunch of pigs to me.
Oh, God.
And if you come over here to hang out with me, buddy, you just gonna be hanging out in a pig pen, because that's what y'all are to me. Bunch of spineless cowards. And I'll have nothing of it. And I'll kiss no man's ass that don't deserve it.
Oh, you mean like, right. Wow. Wow.
I think this needs to become a new weekly segment.
Let's check in with Bryce Mitchell.
Check in with Bryce.
Let's see if he hasn't fallen off the edge of the flat earth.
So from one internet troll to one that is being trolled.
Yeah.
Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal.
Ian Machado Gary, who is like getting all of the hate in the world.
Well deserved.
I mean, he's trolling back as well, right? There's no doubt about it. But I think that there's levels to this kind of trolling, Bradie. And the reason I say that is because, you can say what you want about the fighter, in my opinion. Let's say the two of us fighting. You can say what you want about me. I don't give a shit, right? I should be able to say whatever I want about you. No problem. But the second that you bring in family, the second that you bring in spouses or children or parents or brothers, any kind of family stuff, well, that opens up the door to a whole new can of whoop ass, in my opinion, because that isn't something that, I get what you're doing and you're trying to sell a fight, but you're selling it very weakly by doing this. It's a weak attempt of being able to try to get people to get their butts into those seats, because if you can't do it based on just the man that you're fighting and you have to drag family into it that has absolutely nothing to do with the sport, nothing to do with the game, nothing to do with the fight that's coming up. But if you have to resort to stuff like that, well, then listen, as far as I'm concerned, you can go fake yourself.
Here's where I disagree. And this is where I think you can go fake yourself. If she wasn't digging this whole thing, they wouldn't have highlighted her on the TV before and after like she was fucking Miss Elizabeth. And the UFC knows what they're doing. They had her placed in a specific spot like a fucking valet. She wasn't sitting in the crowd with her friends. She wasn't with the coaches. She was placed with a fucking spotlight on her. They are buying and feeding into this shit. So I understand what you're saying. And normally I think that applies. But the UFC is slowly becoming sports entertainment.
Oh, of course.
Every day. No, it has been for a while. It's used platforms and formats and different things to sell fight. It is really becoming it. And that's the very first thing that went through my head last night when I seen her. I was like, okay, I get it. You're showing your wife, showing his wife. And then at the very end of the fight, they focused on her for about probably 10, 15 seconds. And I was like, all right, guys, this is the Sean Strickland DDP situation all over again. You guys are you're always building the fight, whether it has to do with rankings or it has to do with an actual fight coming up or whatever it is. They're always building a fucking fight. I don't hate it. I'm just pointing out that that's why I think you can go fake yourself. And
that's their job. I get that. That is the job of the promoters and the job of the UFC to try to create fights going forward. Now we saw in this fight going forward, if they give him his next fight that he called out, there's going to be no need to show anybody's spouses on the screen, because it looks like, of course, Ian Machado Gary ends up beating Jeff Neal in a decision and then calls his shot because, of course, he's in there and he's like, everybody knows who I want. Hunter, I'm looking at you. You know who I want. And then calls out Colby Chaos Covington. Now, That's a smart move, if you ask me, by Ian Gary, because Covington's coming off of a loss, a couple of them actually, right? But he still has very good name value. The problem is Colby Covington also has an innate ability to not know where the fucking line is.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know where the line is when he's cutting these promos. So it comes off very cringy sometimes, but the things that he says, they're flammable.
Well, okay, so I don't want to hold too long on this because we got to move through this as quick as possible. But okay, so Ian Gary said that he wanted Colby, but he wanted Colby as the co-main for Chandler and Connor. And he's also talking about wanting to go to Ireland. So now that UFC 300, the main event, has been announced, I'm assuming maybe he wants on that, but we'll talk about that in a second. So moving on to our co-main event.
Co-main event.
Whitaker versus Costa.
Listen, this was a fight that you thought that was going to go. Listen, Paulo Costa did actually a lot better than I thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
Bobby Knuckles, of course, gets the win in this one. Nothing changes in that weight class. Absolutely nothing changes in that weight class right now.
No, it was just a fight for the sake of it.
Then we go to the main event.
And
Alexander Volkanovski did, okay in that first round. And then that second round, he got caught. He absolutely got caught by a younger, faster Ilia Topuria.
Mm-hmm.
And your new champion at featherweight is Ilia Topuria.
Now, we talked about this last week, and you were saying that, in your opinion, you didn't think he went up through the rankings a little too quick. And then I disagreed, and I was like, I don't know, man. I think this might be the next guy. There's just something about him. It's not a I told you so. But what I think is maybe what a lot of people overshadowed with Ilia is the fact that he's got a one-punch knockout, and Volk likes to fight in the pocket.
Yep.
And that's what that's what I seen in my head. I didn't think it would happen in the second round. I actually thought it would happen probably in the fourth. Like once these guys were starting to get a little bit, they were less fainting and more openings were coming, but it happened quick. You're right. It was a one-punch knockout. It put him to sleep. He was out for a second, and we got a new champ. Don't
kid yourself. That's exactly who I had on my betting card.
I know that
I had Topuria by knockout because if the numbers were too high for him to win by knockout, you know what I mean? You take that skin all day long. Mm-hmm. And if it was going to happen, that's the only way he was going to beat Volkanovski. You're not going to get a decision over a guy like Volkanovski. And that's exactly what Topuria went out and did. Right?
I know it's probably not going to happen, but I would like to see Volk take about a year off. Two big knockouts like that. I know he wants the rematch, and he was saying he wants the rematch, but I would really like to see him take a year off, regroup, maybe come back up in a different division, go back up, right, and try and chase a big man again.
Now, that was UFC 298, and then after, the big news has finally been revealed, Bradie.
Here we go. Okay, man.
Big news. So these are the fights that they were talking about happening. And we talked about this last week. We talked about they were talking about Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad. That was a possibility. Everybody's like, okay. Then we were talking Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev was a possibility. And then the third one that we were talking about was who was it? It was Khamzat Chimaev. Oh, Izzy DDP was also thrown out there as one.
Connor.
And Chimaev was thrown out there for another one. Connor is off the table. I know that they were talking
and Tom
about
Aspinall.
That.
Like we've been talking about this
off the table. Yeah.
But we've been talking about this since the beginning of January, end of December, about who we thought and all these names and all these fights that were thrown around.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, please tell me it's Brock.
Absolutely not.
Shit.
It's not Khamzat Chimaev.
Shit.
And it's not Leon Edwards.
What?
And it's not Bilal Muhammad.
And
it's not Izzy versus DDP.
What?
So, I mean, the only logical choice out of all of those, ladies and gentlemen,
let's go, man.
Is Jamal Hill and Pereira.
Excuse me. You say that one more time?
Jamal Hill and Alex Pereira.
I don't like this.
As good a fight as that is not a main event fight for UFC 300.
I don't like what you just said.
There's absolutely zero heat behind that. There's no like heat behind the two of them. This is just a fight that could headline any given pay-per-view, no problem. Because the fight between Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill is a hell of a fight. Jamal Hill needs to have that. He's coming off of, finally coming back from an injury. Wants that title, no doubt. I get all of that. However, this wasn't even close to the radar of what we were looking for as fans. And maybe this is because as sports entertainment and combat sports fans, we want so much more. Maybe it's because it's the pro wrestling fan in me as well that is like, well, that's not what I wanted. I want Cody versus Roman Reigns. And I want this and I want that. And maybe the fans were just getting a little too greedy on this one, right? But it turns out that the UFC makes the rules. They're the ones that do it. Yep,
No. The fans weren't too greedy. The UFC, Dana himself has been saying for over a month, we are working on the biggest super fight for 300. I thought Khalil Roundtree was supposed to be fighting. What? Jamal? I love Jamal, but this is the main of the UFC 300. It's going to be a hell of a fight for sure.
Absolutely.
What the
special guest referee, though? I don't know if you knew this or not, Bradie. R-Truth. No, you happy now? You happy now? That makes it okay. That makes it okay that we're getting Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill for your main event of UFC 300. Really? Ugh.
All right. Well, they're gonna have to do something here at the end of 299. You're gonna have to hear like, "Can you see me now?" or some bullshit at the end of the fucking trailer.
Listen.
Woof.
Yeah.
Woof.
Now, thankfully, that UFC 300 card is so damn stacked.
The next two cards are jacked. 299 is jacked too. But before we get into our next little segment, shouts out to Destiny Wrestling. And their next event coming up is in Oshawa. We've been talking about that. We've been playing commercials for that. Outside of that next one, we have Sunday, March 3rd, Mississauga, Ontario, the Don Collive Arena. Destiny is presenting Carnage with the one and only former WWE superstar, Mustafa Ali.
And he's taking on Gabriel Fuerza. Fuerza is a guy who is very, very quickly moving up in the world of professional wrestling. So that's going to be one hell of a match right there. Not to mention that we've also got Destiny Wrestling is going to be doing 2 matches for the start of the women's championship title picture, right?
Yeah.
Got Alexia Nicole taking on Lisa Hall and Holly Dead taking on Crystal Moon. Both of those matches right there are worth the price of admission, if you ask me. Right? You're also going to have Charles Mason is making his way up into Ontario to take on Tarek, another guy, a hell of a talent out there.
All the punches, all the kicks, and all the chops.
Not to mention that Destiny champion Trent Seven is also going to be there, and he doesn't have an opponent yet. So that means to me, surprise, surprise, surprise. So you're going to want to get your tickets. You're going to want to get your tickets fast. This is going to sell out. I guarantee you it will.
It's probably already. The tickets have been on sale for a minute. You can go to DestinyWrestling.ca or Facebook.com/DestinyWrestling. Get all your info. Get your tickets now because I'm pretty sure we're going to be there doing some coverage.
Absolutely, we will. Oh,
all right.
That one.
So big shouts out to Destiny. Thank you for helping out with our show. We love you to death. Okay, so what else is going on in the world of combat sports, professional wrestling, and all that other good jazz?
Well, let's shift gears a little bit, shall we? And let's talk about some professional wrestling.
All right.
And I got a question for you, Bradie. Is there a bigger stooge than this guy in the world of professional wrestling?
For our listeners,
by this guy, I am talking about none other than Brady's best friend, Dave Meltzer.
No, I fired Dave.
Oh. Okay. My bad.
Let me take rid of Dave.
Let me take that back then. No longer Brady's best friend.
I've never knew him. I don't know Dave.
Dave Meltzer.
No, I've never met. If I lived in the fucking picture that you have up on the screen right now, so ladies and gentlemen listening on your hearing gimmicks, if you're not watching this, it's a picture of Dave. Yeah, there you go. It's laugh away, Chris. There's a picture of Dave Meltzer sitting in a room of just utter chaos. It looked like it looked like Waco happened, and they're trying to get rid of the evidence. Like, what is going on behind him here?
Well, I mean, listen, it's no secret that if this is the kind of squalor that he keeps his office in right now, then it's obvious why he's getting so many reports wrong lately.
Yeah, he's mixed up a bit. Okay, so I have to clarify. I don't know Dave Meltzer. I did meet Dave once, but I don't know Dave Meltzer. And when I bought S&E Radio off of some people, Dave was on the show, was on the TSN show. Our TSN show that plays on, you can check it out on TSN or wherever you get your TSN radio every Sunday night. And Dave used to have a segment on that show, which started originally on your show, The Law, Live Audio Wrestling. And just the very first thing I did was get rid of Dave. Yeah.
Well, it was the smartest thing that you did, if you ask me. Listen,
he's a fucking idiot.
There's no secret that for years and years and years, Dave Meltzer there has been a love-hate relationship with people like him in the world of professional wrestling. A lot of fans love him because he gives them all of the little dirty things that's going on in the business.
And to each their own. Anybody who likes Dave, I'm not shitting on you. You're allowed to like who you like, whether you like Cornette, Dave, or anything in between those polar, those opposite. It's just when someone's a fucking liar and just does shit for no reason, and he fucks with the boys and he's doing it for a paycheck and saying he's not. That's when the merit of your character and the merit of your news and media and whatever you report is thrown out the fucking window. When your whole job is to make excuses. And that's what this is now. He's got a full-time job backtracking.
Which is crazy if you think about that.
It's fucking nuts.
What we're talking about, the latest one seems to be where inside of TNA Wrestling, okay, it looks like he was reporting after the big shakeup in office. He's reporting that Tommy Dreamer is the new head of creative. Unbeknownst to Tommy Dreamer, of course, because that is not the case.
No.
So it's almost like guys like this, guys that refer to themselves as journalists inside of this industry are not. You're just making stuff up. You're clickbaiting. That's all you're doing. You're trying to get people to click onto your shit. And it's got to the point to where I don't even think if you care, if you lie about it to get them to click on it, because all you think you have to do is just say, oh, my bad. They changed the direction. Hoop your head.
Yeah, well, yeah, hoop your forehead. And while you're at it, I will give you a little bit. I'll give you to play the devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Let's say they're not making shit up.
Okay.
Some of these guys out there, and it's not just Dave. There's a lot of them.
Of course.
There's really good journalists. There's really good broadcasters. There's really good podcasters. There's really good guys who just report the news as they hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Dave who do the dirt sheet thing. They may be getting these reports from people and thinking it's truth. The problem is once they're told something, and this is if they're not making it up, once they're told something, they run it as the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do any research or look into it or wait around for a second to see if there is some truth. And maybe they do hold stuff back that they hear and they're like, well, I don't say everything that I know. And that makes me, no, at the end of the day, you're a fucking stooge. There's stooges in all of these companies. There's stooges always in wrestling. But I think your original question was, is there a bigger stooge in wrestling? I don't think so.
No. And this is coming off of the heels where clearly somebody in the TNA locker room is also a stooge. Or stooges, if you will. Because if you saw the reports, Bradie, you saw that a letter came out this past week. A letter that was penned by some people or persons inside of the TNA locker room, sent to Len and Scott. And I'm talking about the people who, of course, Scott D'Amore being let go. And we're talking about Len Asper, the owner of Anthem. And they were talking about how they, this is their undying devotion and love and to Scott D'Amore and how Scott should be back there. And we've all signed this thing. And I can tell you point blank from a few that I have talked to inside of that locker room, they had no idea that this letter went out. They had no idea that it was being written, and they did not sign it. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't like Scott in any way, shape, or form. They were just not part of the process. But in doing so, that means that when this private letter talking about business came out, exposing the things that happen in the business, it only gets out one of two ways, people. It either gets stolen or somebody stooged it out there. And if that's the case, then that means your locker room, your TNA locker room, listen up, ladies and gentlemen, all of you people, boys and girls that are working in that business, and especially working in that company right now, you've got a stooge inside of your locker room. And it's going to be a detriment to you before it's any kind of a help to you. Because in doing so, this is my belief, and only my belief in my opinion. In doing so, in sending this letter out, what you've done is you've put the jobs of everybody else that is not involved in this, you put their jobs on the line too. Because if I'm Anthem, and if I look at this letter coming to me, and I say, oh, I've got a handful of disgruntled employees, you know what? Y'all can go. We'll let you out of your contracts, and you can beat it. No problem. But know this, that every other single person on that locker room has been now put on notice. And if you want to pipe up, you can pipe up. If you cause too many problems for Anthem, then Anthem very well is going to just turn around and say, you know what the most important thing to us is? It's not the staff. It's not TNA Wrestling as putting on live shows and events for our 5 viewers on our multitude of channels that we have that nobody watches. It's the library. And you know what they don't need to sell the library? The people that have jobs. So they kill the whole thing off and just sell the library, cut their losses, take their money, and run. All because they don't want to deal with the headaches that somebody, a stooge inside of that locker room, is causing. It's a bad thing because now you're going to have people that are constantly going, well, shit, what's going to happen with my job now? And I don't know. But I think that things have got to get better very quickly. And we're going to find out because coming up, they've got their first real pay-per-view back together, right? Since all of this news has come out. So let's see how that locker room really is. But it's going to be very depressing for some of them who are looking across the locker room going, are you a stooge? Did you stooge this out? The family dynamic that they preached for so long. There's a crack in it, ladies and gentlemen. There's a crack in it, and it was caused from the inside, not the outside.
I don't mean to segue, but I really like the mood that you're in right now. Tell me about the Montreal screw job again from backstage.
It's a work. God, work. Anyways, I need to take a breath here. We're going to take a quick break. And if you thought that vitriol was anything, wait till you see this next guy that's coming up, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait, can I go for a cigarette?
Yes. We're going to play a truth bomb here. Ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not going for a cigarette.
This week is going to get crazy. So sit back, relax. You don't have to hear our voices for a minute. You're going to watch this. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of WWE before wrapping this whole thing up. What's really going on with The Rock? This is the Law of Live Audio Wrestling.
Hey, my name is Big Daddy Donnie DeSilva, and it's time to drop a truth bomb. The booking for the main event of AEW Revolution has been atrocious. Back in October, Sting announced he would have his last match on March 3rd, 2024 at AEW Revolution, and no other information was given, so the internet started to speculate. Could Ric Flair come out of retirement and do it one more time with his longtime rival? Would Tony Khan bring in the Great Muta? My hope was an all-babyface encounter that would see Sting versus his protege, Darby Allin, and officially pass the torch to his painted face little brother. On January 10th, it was revealed that the last match of Sting's iconic career would see him tag with Darby versus the Young Bucks. Now, apparently, AEW owner Tony Khan gave Sting his pick of anyone on the roster, and this is what Sting chose, so that's fine. He had a good experience working a 6-man tag against them at a previous event, and apparently he wanted to do business together one more time. And I don't have a problem with that. To be honest, I thought what we were going to do is have the Bucks come in, talk about how they've hero worshipped Sting since they were kids, and now they're going to tear the roof off the building and give the fans a hell of a show. You know, normally I hate face versus face matches, but in this instance, to me, it's what would have made the most sense. Any attempt at generating heat in this story, I thought would have felt contrived and shoehorned. Let's not forget, the Bucks had been off TV for a while, and when we last saw them, they were baby faces, and they were really over. Suddenly, they return, and now, without explanation, they're heels. Aside from the fact that the Bucks are going hard after Big Show's career record of most turns, this latest one has them portraying exaggerated versions of the people that the IWC accused them of being. Evil executive vice presidents that manipulate everything behind the scenes. It feels so far over the top, as many things with the Bucks do, that it borders on absurd. It doesn't feel like heat. It feels like the Young Bucks thumbing their noses at everyone. 11 days ago, for absolutely no reason, Darby and Sting won the tag titles from Ricky Starks and Big Bill. And suddenly, Sting's last match on March 3rd just got muddied. Almost immediately after winning the belts, they were jumped by the Bucks, who came out wearing white suits, which were quickly soaked with blood from the faces of the new champions. Sting's two adult sons sitting ringside tried to intervene, but were also beaten down by the Young Bucks. It instantly becomes obvious that Sting's last match is now going to be for the tag team titles, which feels like a super obvious giveaway on who's going to win. But in an effort to generate heat, the Bucks leave Sting and Darby covered in their own blood, and okay, AEW, I'm still riding with you. This past week, AEW fans all over social media were smiling and giggling, saying Darby Allin just had the promo of the year, which is a boast that's less impressive when you realize that the year is only 7 weeks old. The Young Bucks came out this week wearing those same blood-stained white suits from the previous week of TV. They worked a match and declared themselves number one contenders to the tag titles. Because despite Tony Khan recently introducing the ranking system, the Bucks are EVPs. So of course they can do that. That announcement was met by very little crowd reaction because everyone had already figured out that the belts would be on the line. And then, in yet another effort to build heat and remind everyone, hey, we're bad guys now, they shoved longtime announcer Tony Schiavone to the mat onto his ass. Darby Allin comes running in and chases the Bucks out of the ring. Darby grabs the mic and delivered that promo of the year. Now, did Darby give an impassioned warning about how he's going to destroy the Bucks for what they did to his mentor? Did he talk about how Sting was home tending to his two injured sons and how they have unlocked a darker side of Sting who now wants revenge so bad that the Bucks should be afraid? No, none of that. None of that was even mentioned. Instead, Darby talked about how the Bucks wouldn't hire him. He talked about the mission statement when AEW first opened was to change the world, and how he quickly realized this was just a place for Nick and Matt to give jobs to their buddies and goof off. He talked about how the only reason he got hired was because there used to be an executive vice president with a brain, and the crowd immediately starts chanting, Cody, Cody, Cody. Instead of talking about the fact that Nick and Matt had humiliated him and his partner, Darby talked about, you wouldn't give me a job. What? How is this helping the story? Folks, the only bit of story development that happened in this entire segment was the one we already knew, that the match on March 3rd will be for the tag team titles. The Bucks declared it, and then Darby said it again. And other than that, all he did was bring more attention to the competition by invoking the name of Cody Rhodes. Cody isn't part of this angle, and he's not going to be. And is it good business for Darby to refer to that company, his company, as All Friends Wrestling when it's already struggling to pull casuals into their product? Was that the promo of the year? It accomplished nothing. Will one extra person purchase the pay-per-view as a result? All this promo did for me was shine a light on how badly AEW needs better booking and better segment production. An agent should have been backstage and said, "So Darby, what are you going to say?" And when Darby told him, the agent should have said, "Well, that sucks. Let's figure out something else." Now, I recognize the planned finish for this match could be the babyfaces winning and Sting retiring as champion. After all, AEW loves tournaments, and this would give them another reason to hold a tournament for those belts. However, is that what's best for business? I appreciate the fact that they want to honor Sting and let him do what he wants the last time he laces up the boots. But does it help the company? They've still got 2 weeks of TV before this match happens, but so far the story's been nothing short of disappointing. And with the inclusion of these belts, they've creatively painted themselves into a corner and diluted the actual focus of the match, which is supposed to be the last time we see Sting, not who's going to wear the golden leather props at the end of the night. I'm Big Daddy Donnie. You don't have to agree with me, but it's the truth.
Are you in the market for a used vehicle for your family or business? North Toronto Auction hosts public auctions twice a month, and everyone's invited. Hundreds of cars, trucks, SUVs, commercial vehicles, and heavy equipment are available. Plus, travel trailers, motorcycles, snowmobiles, ATVs, and more. View the entire selection at NorthTorontoAuction.com. Bid online or bid in person. Bid on items from government agencies, financial companies, fleet managers, car dealers, and public consigners. For more information, visit us online at NorthTorontoAuction.com.
Hey, did you know that Saturday, February 24th, Destiny World Wrestling returns to Oshawa and the Children's Arena for Destiny's Reckless?
Is that the event featuring the indie god himself, Matt Cardona?
You bet it is.
I heard he's not going to be there alone. I heard Steph DeLander's showing up. I heard Fight or Flight is showing up. Vanna Black, Tara Zepp, Lindsay Dorado, and a whole bunch more.
Man, you better get your tickets now. They're on sale at www.DestinyWrestling.ca.
Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button to get all the latest from the Law, Live Audio Wrestling. Now back to the show.
And we are back on the Law, Live Audio Wrestling. And Chris, I think Donnie may be onto something. Going that long doesn't give intern KJ any room to put in a video this week, which is tremendous. And two, are they wasting Sting?
Yes, I believe they are. I believe they are, but that also could be because maybe Sting is realizing that hiding himself inside of a tag match is the best choice for him going out. Maybe his body is giving out quicker than we even imagine. Maybe this is just something that he wants to do. Could you imagine if this entire time Sting was like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I've had, after all of the bullshit and everything like that has happened in AEW with Jericho, with Punk, with Ace Steel, with all of the EVPs, with, everything has changed from the time I'm sure that he was lured into that company. So maybe he's just looking for his out. We don't know until March 3rd, right? Well, actually, we won't know until March 4th, to be honest with you.
In your opinion, what's the best and worst versions of Sting?
Wow. Well, if you're asking me, the best version is always going to be, for me, it's going to be Surfer Sting. Surfer, blonde hair, Sting was the Blade Runner. Sting was the coolest Sting to me. That was also when he was at his athletic peak, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. When he started doing Crow Sting and hanging out in the rafters and all of that stuff, I was like, okay. I mean, maybe I didn't buy into it as much because I was already a grown adult who had seen The Crow and knew that, Brandon Lee got shot for reals. Like, it just didn't do anything for me.
I got a little hot take for you. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to put a bullet on what you're saying before you move on. So, go
ahead.
He's the most unoriginal, creative guy with a big name ever in the business.
Sting?
His name was taken from a famous musician.
Who?
Sting.
Oh,
Elton John. No, so he took his name. His look came from, that was a combination. We'll just say that his look he gets credit for. Then he did the Crow thing. Then he did the Joker thing. Like he doesn't do his own shit. So I agree with you. The best version of Sting is 80 Stings. Keep going.
The worst, in my opinion, is Joker Sting.
There you go.
Joker Sting is something that so many other people did and have done so much better. And let us not get into, for those of you that don't know, maybe we'll get into this in a future episode as we get closer to this, or maybe after, and we'll talk about the fact that there's a wrestler out there by the name of Crimson who was doing that Joker thing before Sting was.
Well, there's also a wrestler called Crazy Steve who was doing that Joker thing before Sting was.
Yeah. So this whole idea, it goes to show you, Bradie, if you get it to TV first and you've got the bigger name, you win the prize. That's really what it goes down to.
It's all about the name.
Absolutely. So speaking of name,
all right, let's do this.
Side shifting very quickly before we run out of time here. I don't know if y'all see this or not, but it looks like The Rock. The Rock has joined the Bloodline, Bradie.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Man, that promo was... a lot of people are like, oh, this is bullshit. This is The Rock heel light. And I'm like, I'm digging it. When he came out there and he's like, you guys set a record. People bought into it. He hooked, he baited every line. He did his job as a TKO board member at the same time by hyping things up. He built up the main event for WrestleMania. He built up the future main events with him and Roman. There were seeds planted. You had Jimmy there, like the happiest kid in the family that was just happy to be there watching his older cousins do their thing. I loved everything about it. Paul Heyman's facial expressions. Fucking, excuse my language, fucking perfect.
Yeah. If you go over, you can check out our good friend, the Blue Meanie. You can check out his socials, and you'll see that he's laid out a theory on the way that this is going to go. And it's all based kind of like on this picture that you see in front of you if you're watching this on the YouTube channel right now. If you notice, everybody here is throwing up their fingers, throwing up their acknowledge the chief fingers. Everybody but one person. Everybody but the person who showed Ricky Starks what it looks like if you're a man size and you dress this way.
I like Ricky Starks. What's wrong with you? Ricky's great. You're an asshole.
Yes, I am. Absolutely 100%. You know who?
If this was the Attitude Era, Ricky would have been... Sorry, what did you say?
I said, you know who else is an asshole? The Rock, because he knew exactly what he was doing when he put that shirt on, took the sleeves off, and said, hey, this is what arms look like, young boy.
So if this was the Attitude Era, Ricky would have been bought out of his WCW contract, and they would have brought him in as The Rock's little cousin or his little brother.
100%.
Yeah, it would have been Holly versus... That would have gotten to the Hollies to the main event level.
So the big story behind this is that you see that The Rock was holding up the gun to the air, the L, so to speak, to the air, which, is the L for loser.
Oh, I thought it was Bullet Club for life.
Could be. Maybe he is. Could you imagine? The Rock is now going to join the Bullet Club. He's joining the Bloodline. He's going to join the Bullet Club. He's going to join the New Age Outlaws. He's going to bring back the Nation of Domination. He's going the
Tonga's on his way. Jacob Fatu's on his way. The rest of the cousins are all getting into wrestling right now. The nephews are getting into wrestling right now. It's going to be a full Samoan takeover here over the next 5 years.
That also, in turn, the only way you come out of that is for a full Samoan implosion.
Exactly.
And I'm looking forward to it.
This is great storytelling. They've been if you think about it, they have been telling this story for going on 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah.
And it's just getting bigger, and it's like a Sopranos.
And we're not done. We're not even close to done. I don't think that this is going to take place at this WrestleMania. No. I think that this doesn't finish off until next year's WrestleMania. Okay. These guys are playing checkers when everybody else is playing Parcheesi or whatever the hell. They're playing Old Maid, something completely different. The Rock is on a different level. And what he's going to do, the storytelling that he's going to do to everybody over this next little while is going to be fantastic. And I look forward to it.
So Bradie, on our way out of here,
to
the audio listeners, don't worry, it's seamless. Tid's Kick in the Head is coming up right after we close this out. But can you give us a quick preview? Why? So we had Crazy Steve on, I think, the second or third episode that we had done with this reboot here. And I feel like you got more out of him this time. Was there some sort of substance involved here? Like, he seemed to be a lot more loosey-goosey.
Yeah, so Steve and I sat down with a couple of tequilas, and we had a conversation. And we
I
had
get it now.
Conversation. And we talk about everything from like, why was being a Punch and Judy clown show for TNA such a horrible idea and who came up with it. We talk about that in this interview. We talk about, you know, going forward and his love for art and how he thinks that music is just straight up, you know, witchcraft. We talk about what's going to happen. What does he want to do moving forward, being the digital champion, the digital media champion for TNA, and what really is a digital media champion anymore. We know what it was when it was supposed to be, you know, the original incarnation. What's it going to be moving forward? So it's a really, really fun and good interview and a sit down that I did with Crazy Steve. So please.
Now, how long did you talk about Tommy Dreamer being the head of creative?
Well,
how long did that go on for?
0 seconds. You want to know why?
Because
he's not
true. Well, that's it for me this week, Chris. We'll be back midweek for you YouTubers. Audio listeners, we're back next Sunday. You can check us out on SME Radio or any podcast provider. Chris, you got anything you want to say before we roll this ride out and leave them with a disclaimer?
If nothing has taught you anything this past week, ladies and gentlemen, the one thing you always got to remember to do, no matter what life throws at you, tuck your chin.